We're going to go ahead and get started again. I think we're moving into the public engagement piece. Is that right, Claire? So we have Mr. Kunke, Mr. Lupke, and Claire, all Ms. Powell, all putting us some information on public engagement.
We can't compete with goats, but we'll do the best we can. So as we get into the area of public engagement, I briefly want to just point out, we did some work with the departments to put together a list of the various engagement tools and tactics that we use. And we stopped counting when we crossed 150, decided, okay, we got a pretty good sample here. But as you look at engagement, there's really three major types of engagement that we use. When we are giving information to the public, but there is not an immediate chance to respond to it by the public, that's outbound engagement. And when we are gathering input from the public, but we don't have a way to directly respond to their input, that's inbound. And then the ideal is when we're providing information, they're responding, and we can react to them, and that is two-way engagement. And we do all three of those. These are just some examples, major categories of our outbound engagement tools. You've seen these things. Printed materials are still very important for us. The Horizon newsletter, for example, is the only tool we have on a regular basis that reaches every single household in the city of Louisville. We put it in their hands. Whether they read it or not is up to them. Surveys indicate that readership is very high for that publication. The annual report, posters, flyers, brochures, printed materials still have a place. Digital materials have grown, obviously, haven't replaced it. That includes our 6 different email newsletters. That includes the digital screens you see here in the building. There's one down the hall by the kitchen. And then online materials, which obviously are digital, but we think of these as ones you can only access through a computer or a similar device. We have 10 websites now. 9 of those 10 are all on the same maintenance backboard. One is an outside one that we now control, but is separate in terms of the control, in terms of the management. And then the mobile apps. We have a couple of different mobile apps out there. We've moved away from mobile apps in some ways because these days, if the website is mobile responsive, it kind of serves as a mobile app if you design the web page correctly. And we've transitioned to that in some areas. We're about to transition to that with the Visit Louisville. But there are still some mobile apps out there, and I doubt we'll ever get away completely from specialized mobile apps. The metrics dashboard, which is where we're putting a lot of great information that a lot of people aren't finding in other cities. Video, signs, billboards, water bill inserts, and notices. So all of these are ways that we are putting information out there, but the public does not have a chance to directly respond. They can send an email or a call, but there's not a quick, easy click button. Inbound, we just have these 4 listed surveys. We're gathering information, but we don't know who gave us that information, so we can't respond to someone directly. The online polls and surveys, the Rock Solid reporting platform, and the Zen City sentiment tracking. Now, this is a short list, not because we only have these 4 ways of gathering input, but because one of our objectives is always to take these tools and find a way to make them two-way so that we can acknowledge and act on the input we've received. And here's our two-way list. You notice the font gets smaller here because this list continues to grow. Public meetings, special events, our various academies, public engagement meetings, which, for example, SH 121 business, all of the work there on that corridor, there's been a lot of public engagement. PARD had a lot of public engagement. And I'll point out, by the way, this is not what your community relations team is doing by ourselves. Every department of the city is involved. Just in the past 6 months, finance, PARD, and court have all received awards for public engagement efforts. So this is a citywide program. Our ambassadors group that has met twice and is continuing on. The NROs and SROs, they are face-to-face. We see from survey data that the more, I mentioned this when I presented survey results most recently, the more people engage with us on a personal basis with human beings, the happier they are with their city. So this is, NROs and SROs are great, and we're trying to find more ways to do it. PLOW's a way that is, Coffee with Cops, and then our partnership with the Chamber. We got some new things that are rolling out, and did I turn something off? I don't know. It'll go back on. These are three. One is the multifamily outreach plan. When half your population lives in apartments, you have to find a way to reach them, and that is often an under-engaged population. Sometimes it's because they expect to be here for 6 months, so they don't want to get terribly involved, and sometimes it's just because they maybe don't feel like they're a part, that belonging we talked about. So we have a plan to actively reach out. We rolled it out middle of 2023. We've seen some good early results, and we're continuing to find ways to expand on that and use that to reach that half of our population. You heard yesterday mention about the CityBot, which is a 24-hour AI chatbot that will be attached to all of the websites on our core control system. So 9 of our 10 websites will have access to it. That contract, I believe the purchase order now has been processed. So we are hopefully 3 or 4 months away from starting to test that. One thing you'll see is this system gets smarter the more it is used. Right now we're working on the FAQs that'll be kind of the base information for this system, but when we're ready to launch it, we're going to really encourage the public to test it hard, and we'll warn them, you might get a whole lot of, I don't know, call so-and-so the first month or so, but the more people use it and test it, the more robust that system will become. And our video production truck, now we've been talking to you about this for 3.5 years. We ordered it in late 2020, early 21. Ford ran out of motors multiple times. I'm not sure how that worked, but finally we got the truck delivered to us about 6 weeks ago. It's now been delivered to Massachusetts for upfitting. We hope to have that back in place by the end of the summer so we can start training and using it. And ways that'll help us in engagement, one is we're working with the instructor over at Tech West on using some of their video students to work with us when we use the truck, to be camera operators, maybe even work on the switching board, especially if we're doing school events. School events on our cable channel would draw a lot of people to it. We can't broadcast sporting events live. That's against UIL rules, but we can broadcast them the next day, and I think a lot of people would be watching that. Same with fine arts presentations and so forth. So quickly touch on the Centennial Celebration Committee. We heard from our moderator at the start of the retreat that the 100th birthday is a big deal. You get one, and you don't want to miss it. You want to make a big deal of it, have fun. So we have formed a Centennial Committee. We actually have 40 members now. One person, unfortunately, had to drop off for health reasons. But we do anticipate adding people throughout the year, moving people around. This includes some residents who've been around for, 50, 60 years. It includes some that have been here for less than 2 years. So we have a really great variety of ideas and viewpoints. We have teachers, businessmen, businesswomen, just all kinds of different people in that. We've met once. We're forming these 9 subcommittees. Oscar Carlisle is not on the committee, but his picture's a great one. And we're working with trying to get the plan together of what they want to do to celebrate. They want it to be a year-long celebration with certain highlights during the year. And we started with a list of more than 40 opportunities. Really, it was more than 50, but some of them kind of were duplicates. And they've trimmed that down considerably. In fact, in your packet, we'll talk on the next slide about some of the specific items, but in your packet, there's a list of the activities that are currently being researched based on committee input, so we can submit a budget request as part of next year's budget submittal. You see the 6 major categories there: branding, events, arts and culture, history, community involvement, and permanent markers. This gets a little bit more in detail. These 5 items we know are going to happen because of the tremendous response we already got. A dedicated Centennial website that we will hire someone outside to develop for us. A Centennial logo, recreations of historical photos. I'm sure it'll shock you to know that Kelly Blackall has said she wants to do that, and we welcome that. Artifact displays at various city facilities, and then the library, and talking with Carolyn Booker and her team, they have some ideas of ways to highlight literature, not just from the 20s, but a century's worth of literature, but tying back to the 20s. So those 5 are going to happen. And then the list in your packet shows about 15 to 18 items that we are researching for the committee right now. And as I've told the committee, we won't be able to do all of them probably. Some of them might not be feasible. Some of them are going to really require the committee to do the heavy lifting because staff won't be able to. And then part of it is going to be budget. But we'll do as many as we can. That list is subject to change. We have some ideas that the committee kind of like, but not as much. But if someone comes along and does them for free, for example, we have there was an idea that was talked about having a series of articles about Louisville history that could be published on the webpage. We could submit to various newspapers and so forth. And people liked it, but not as much as some other items. But one of the committee members is a history teacher who has written history articles for history publications and said, I want to do this. So that gave that a little bit more emphasis. So the list will change off and on as we go through once we've got that finalized. My approach has been, if it benefits the city and is free, there's a good chance you'll get a yes out of us. So just some old photos from the 20s. Louisville 2025 Vision Plan. So this was developed back in 2014. We did an update process, the touch point that started in 19 and was adopted in 20. Well, 2025 is next year. And so it's time for that plan to again be revised and to evolve into whatever the next iteration of our vision plan and our vision is. So you see there the list of some of the things we did with the touchpoint process. And that plan was received some recognition for being a very effective engagement plan. So as we go into the next update, which will start late this year, we'll adopt a whole lot of those same tools and then find ways to improve them. There's technology now that 4.5 years ago either didn't exist or was just starting to exist. So we feel like we can do a lot more than we did before. In particular, our multifamily outreach plan and our outreach to local churches, we think, is an opportunity to get more people involved in this planning process. So we're in the early stages of developing that plan and a timeline, which we will be submitting a proposal for budget submission. The idea would be that late this year you start the process, and then at some point, probably in mid-2025, we are finished with that. You see down the bottom left, that's a 2035 logo that actually was developed during the touchpoint process. And council liked it, but said, that's great, let's wait till 2025, then we can use it. So we haven't lost it, we still have it. Even have a really cool video we made at the time of it transitioning. So we're ahead of the game. And I think Claire wanted to touch on that last point.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I just wanted to talk to you just briefly and make sure that we're all kind of aligned on this. At the same time that we adopted our last update on 2025, we also adopted our sustainability plan. And actually there was a lot of discussion at that time about whether or not we wanted to keep that plan as a separate plan from your overall long-range plan, which is your 2025 plan. Ultimately, we had decided we were going to keep it separate, and the reason why was because we wanted to make sure that it was, we were clearly setting out that sustainability was something separate and apart, and that we put a lot of importance on it. But if you saw from the 2025 plan, there was a lot of overlap. I mean, a lot of the goals are very similar. And so this year with 2035, we are proposing to incorporate those sustainability action plan into the long range plan. I think that's a benefit primarily because we never want to keep a plan on a shelf, and I think that the majority of the tasks that we've succeeded in the sustainability action plan have been the ones that have been also reflected in 2025. So I just wanted council to understand that going forward, our plan is to merge those two, so it would be a vision and sustainability plan. But wanted to make sure that, from an engagement standpoint, you guys were comfortable with that. And if you guys, and also we'll pause here. James, did you have anything else on this?
On this slide, no.
You can go to the next one, I think.
Oh, the next one, I think, is the input slide.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for, was input.
So we have some discussion points for you. We'd like to hear your input, since it is two-way engagement right here in this room in this moment. Like to hear where you think our engagement is working, and also where there's gaps that we can fill. And finally, over the next 2 to 3 years, how would you like to see us grow and expand our engagement efforts?
I would like to go back to what we were just talking about regarding the sustainability. I am perfectly fine with incorporating the sustainability action plan into our Louisville, 2035 plan. I was supportive of doing that. I don't like having it separate. I understand when we kind of separate it out, yes, it can show the importance, but it also creates this is something that we're not incorporating into everything we do. So I feel like if we want to set a mindset and a culture that we're going to sustainability is really more of a strategic move, and we're going to incorporate it into everything we do, not as something separate if we can. I think it just makes sense to combine it.
Do you have anything else on any of these?
On any of these, I guess I am not on all social media platforms. And we are getting into election season, so that it seems like there's a lot more engagement, at least on the social media platforms that at least I see. One concern I have is that there's an incredible amount of misinformation that's put out there that is stated as fact. And that's not only is that not helping us inform the public, it's actually setting us backward. So I do see, it's just all the time. And so I will see responses from Louisville City Hall as much as possible to help when they see something that's just not right, to try to correct that. But there has to be more, because there's so much misinformation that's put out there. And for me personally, I think part of that is what we as a council do. My concern is, because we definitely don't want to get into walking quorum issues. Maybe if we could have a little just like little workshop session or something that gives us a refresh of what can you do, what can't you do, just so we're all of us are on the same page on what we can do, so that we can help what the Louisville City Hall admin is doing to respond to some of the misinformation that's out there.
Yeah, just adding to that, one challenge that we face during election seasons is we traditionally have not engaged in conversations once there's an elected official or a candidate for office involved. Partly because we don't want to be seen contradicting one of you or someone who could be one of you, but also because once the campaign starts, we're really leery about anything that could be perceived as electioneering. If we see a council member or a candidate that posts something that is factually incorrect, we will tell them privately, hey, this that you posted is incorrect, and it's up to them to fix it or not. The ambassadors group, we've seen several of the members of the ambassadors group starting to become much more vocal recently, which was one of the hopes of the ambassadors group, is that they would. But yeah, if a council member or a candidate posts something that is factually incorrect, we'll tell them about it. We just won't necessarily engage them directly because of the campaign season.
I do appreciate the efforts around social media. I'm very active on social media. I do, to your point, if I see something and I see that Louisville City Hall or somebody's already addressed it, I try to get back out of it for all very similar reasons, right? It is difficult, and we have issues with walking quorums, but some of these things get to be 300-400 comments long. You go through and read every single comment and say, well, did TJ weigh in? So there's some clarity around that. Some help around that would be really appreciated. I'm going to go back a step, though, in that one of the things I'd like to see is, I think this is going to come off wrong, and I'm going to correct it. So I think we've over-efforted our direction in communication. When we have 150 ways that we communicate, I'd like to see that actually come down to be more concentrated, because it's overwhelming. I just posted something about this, oddly, on social media about this very same thing. It's like I get up and I go, there's nowhere to eat. And the reality is there's about 20 restaurants by me, and I get overwhelmed by the decision. So it's not that there's nowhere to eat. I just can't make the decision because there's too much input. And I feel like we may have overcorrected to that level. So it'd be interesting to see if we can consolidate and distill some of that down to a more concentrated effort. The other thing I want to put out, and I would love to see if there's a way to take government out to the neighborhoods? Can we have council meetings once a quarter outside of chambers? And I put that out there for a couple of reasons. One, I know it's probably difficult. Two, I don't even know the legal ramifications of doing that. But I like it because we talked about difficulty of engaging certain communities. We talked about apartments. We talked about maybe some of our maybe Chin community getting out there and taking the government out to the people. We may get no engagement, but that's okay. We made the effort, and I like the fact that we made the effort. I will tell you, and we've all probably been on the other side and speaking at that podium, it's an intimidating room. You go in there, it's all wood, and then people are elevated. It can be intimidating to go up to that podium and speak. I think taking this out to a community center, to a park, to an HOA area or something like that, it's a little less intimidating maybe for people to get up and speak. But I'd love to consider that in the coming year. Is there a way we can take council meetings out to the public?
We had a discussion, I think last week or the week before. I'm a little leery about taking our council meetings out of for a myriad of reasons, and I think we can have that discussion later. However, I think that when you go back to give a man a fish, they'll eat for a day. Teach them to fish, they'll eat for a lifetime. We have a lot of citizens that I call spoon-fed citizens, and they, even though it's right there, they want you to feed it to them. We can't always do that. There's a certain amount when you become an adult and tax-paying citizen that there's a certain amount of responsibility on you. You're no longer in diapers, on a bottle, and everything else. We have constraints in certain demographics, like our citizens and stuff, like our senior citizens, that there's a lot of technology issues that or lack of knowledge thereof that but we have so many avenues of information and communication out there that it's time for some people to step up instead of using social media that not everyone uses as the know-all be-all of everything that's going on in the city of Louisville. She was very nice in saying misinformation. I'm going to say outright lies and venom for their own personal recognition and gain. And I'm no longer want to feed into it by spoon feeding them.
I got several things I just wrote down after everybody was talking, which, well, one thing I don't know if we can do is more Louisville Grand Theater events like we used to do. I don't know how much engagement we got out of that, but I know I used to go to those a lot. On the topics that we had, I know we're doing a few of those, but I think if we got more of those possibly going. I know that it's kind of old school, but I think the water bill thing with the pamphlets, I think that you reach everybody. Maybe you can do like a topic of the month or something on these topics that people that are complaining about. I'm excited about the video truck. I think there's some things that could be done there. I think with nowadays, I don't know if we can do a podcast and just talk about these, events. I don't know how that would work, or who you'd have on there, and the mayor, maybe different people. People are just responding to different, these newer technologies. I do think that if we could do something, I know every time we go to the Chin event every February, it seems like that's the only time I engage with that group. It seems like if we could go out to their place maybe, or like even the Latino community, find a place that we could engage with them out there. I think I would love to, engage with the Chin community more than once a year. Although I see Young, because he's on the Central Louisville board, I would love to have that. And I think this is kind of outside the box, but I look forward to the annual draft thing every year. If we can get somebody excited about an event like that, where hey, we've got to go, that's something to me. Like we can maybe. I don't know how you do that, but that's one thing. I love the NFL draft. I don't know what it is about it, but if we can capture that, I think that's something that would be great.
I just want to touch on one thing that James said. Like, I think, people are more happy when they have a human connection. So we have to find a way that we can do that. And I don't think a council meeting in public may work, but maybe council members engaging in certain events to talk about certain city issues may be helpful, where we won't necessarily have a quorum, or maybe we can. I mean, that whoever wants to attend an event, but we might need to plug into community events that are happening, particularly in Castle Hills, in south off 3040, where I've noticed like the voting down there is very low and the engagement is low. And the reason I noticed that because we had no voting location down there. So, I mean, we need to try to tap into certain things. Like when we're talking about the mall redevelopment, maybe we can have some kind of event there. But it'd be easier to tap into the events that we have. And regarding to the communications that we have, unfortunately, I think we have to continue around what we're doing. Trying to consolidate it may not be as effective, but maybe what we can do is find out through our residents who come to different events, which one do they get their information from? And then we can target and focus on those most effective means of communication. I want to say that I know that the staff, for every year I've been on council, even when I was on P&Z, is trying to find new ways to engage residents. It's not a matter of us not trying. The biggest thing is the residents have to tell us, and to your point, they have to tell us what works best for them, and we have to consolidate that into an effective manner. We can't do everything, but it is incumbent. Like when there's an issue, I watch the city of Louisville. I don't comment on it because I'm worried about the walking quorum issue.
The unofficial.
Well, I don't want to break state law. So, but when people ask me something, I answer the question as quickly as possible. So I always encourage folks, just ask me. We're all your council members. The residential district thing, yes, that's changed a bit, but we're all your council members. You vote for us all, and he's all your mayor, so and it's his fault usually. But I think we're making efforts. We just need to try to find a way after post-COVID to make a personal contact with as many people who want to make contact, and we find that they're more engaged in the ambassadors program. Is awesome because I watch them get into people who are telling mistruths or trying to point people in the wrong direction. But more importantly, some people just innocently don't know. And, I would direct them to if you're on Facebook, go to Louisville City Staff, go to the website or reach out to one of us. So I think we're doing the right things. I just think we can try to find the most effective way that's reaching people. And as far as the water utility bill, I don't even open mine. I just pay it on text. Mm-hmm. So, there's different modes for everybody.
So, few things. First of all, I think our engagement efforts are outstanding. I think the written material we put out there is outstanding. The social media that I see is outstanding. We do a really good job of communicating clearly, concisely, and to the point, and getting the information out there. Where I think, and I'm dovetail, I think we know the events that we have, and I think absolutely can we dovetail onto that? I mean, meet them where they are. We might as well take advantage of that. I don't know what that looks like, but there's something there, I think, that we can create. A couple of things that I would love to see continue and get more of. We had my apologies, wasn't able to make it, don't have the name, but it was the Meet the City event a week ago.
Yes, Learn Louisville.
Learn Louisville. Love that. Carrollton does something similar where they have all their groups come out and their councils there, and it's an evening event that they do. And there's tables and poster boards, and people can get plugged in. Here's how you get plugged into these departments and whatnot.
We just discussed that.
Yeah, I love that one. So
just to let you know, we actually have one more planning, another one. It's going to be a slightly smaller version, but it's going to be at Creekside Mobile Home Park.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
We'll have a pop-up City Hall event there.
Yeah, so somewhere we can get that pop-up City Hall kind of concept. I love it. Let's do more of it, figure that out. Video, I think, is also, with the truck coming, I think that's going to help. I will tell you, my social media contacts have exploded on video. I'm seeing so much more traction as far as just people seeing stuff than the text stuff, the traditional text. So that's an interesting angle. I love our fall community service day that we're slowly ramping up. I think we're done slowly. I think it's time. We've had 2 years of it. I know COVID kind of put a little hiccup in there, but I'm not sure about the branding. I mean, there was a one of the universities, it was their day of service that we kind of piggybacked on, and then.
Are you talking about for the Love of Louisville?
Yeah, but it was originally when we did it, it piggybacked to one of the university day of services.
It was, Make a Difference Day.
Yeah. So I think branding around that one's been a little confusing maybe, or we've had multiple events where they haven't kind of congealed into one community service day, but I think, Love of Louisville Day, that one I think we absolutely need to tout as like a new big event. Call it an event like Western Days, except it's service oriented. And then I've told this to Claire, but I love the CERT program. Many communities have tried like the what is it? The eyes in the neighborhood, the community. Neighborhood Watch. And Neighborhood Watch works extremely well. Something happens, everybody gets involved, one person gets burned out, it goes away in 6 months. You see it all the time. Those community neighborhood watches just don't stick. But CERT, I think, sticks, and because it's about how do I help my neighbor? How do I help my neighborhood? It's not about how I defend against crime. It's about how do I help my neighborhood? And I think people want to help. They want to feel connected. So maybe we don't call it CERT, but it's what is that neighborhood set of resources that I have, and then how do I tap into the city programs to make it even bigger? That's for public engagement. Those are the things that I think will really get us traction over the next 2 to 3 years, if we just kind of put a focus on it.